There's an overarching theme of gendering bodies in our society as there is a deeply held belief that men and women are opposites and their bodies must reflect so. A harmful aspect of gender as a system is the way in which media both perpetuates and reflects gender norms. For example, the movie Grease exemplifies three main gender stereotypes in society. The first stereotype we will examine is the belief that males are the dominant gender and must protect women, as is seen in the case of Danny and Sandy. Second, we will explore the damaging theme of females as decorative objects and how the characters are portrayed in a way that reflects feminine standards. Our third stereotype is the idea that masculinity is fragile and we must protect through the fag discourse and violence. The first issue we are addressing is the belief that men and women are seen as opposites and how they should act, as well as males believing they own women. Throughout the movie, the belief that men and women are biologically opposite and should therefore act in the manner is being displayed. The belief is called essentialism, and it supports the idea that men are supposed to be motionless, strong, and protect women, and women are supposed to be emotional, weak, and submissive to men. In the movie Grease, Sandy is portrayed as needing a man in order to be completely satisfied. This perpetuates the belief that women aren't able to live without men, and they have to constantly rely on them. They can never be their own independent self, which is also shown in the scene at the diner. In that scene, Sandy tells Tom that she needs money, and he gives her a quarter to play a song. Going along with this, in order for Sandy to win Danny over, was to change herself. For instance, in one of the last scenes, Sandy shows up to the carnival with a whole new look. Her clothes are skin tight, she is no longer wearing her schoolgirl dress, and her hair is down and curly. She's basically becoming the exact opposite of herself in order to be with the man she likes. By changing herself, she is perpetuating the belief that women are supposed to be submissive and listen to their man's requests, which can also be seen as a patriarchal bargain. Sandy is agreeing to gender equality in exchange for winning Danny. A solution to this issue is to teach younger generations that they don't need a man to be happy. We need to start teaching them to be independent instead of relying on men for everything. With this being said, we need to teach women not to be small, whether it be at home, in school, or in the media. By doing this, it would give them a voice about our current traditional beliefs or about being their own person. This can especially be portrayed in Disney movies, since women are often depicted as the damsel in distress, which is shown in Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, and Cinderella, or they need to be married in order to be happy, which is shown in The Little Mermaid. However, they are beginning to take a step in the right direction with movies such as Brave, Frozen, Moana, even Princess and the Frog. These princesses are shown to put themselves and their people and their family first. In all of these movies, except Princess and the Frog, she pursued her dreams instead, the princesses are not married and are shown to be completely happy.
The second issue we are addressing is how media plays a role in portraying the gendering of bodies and women as decorative objects. Gender bodies are often displayed throughout media and are used as an example of what individuals should replicate to correctly portray their gender. Within the movie Grease, we see the gendering of bodies through the character Sandy. In the beginning of the film, Sandy is seen as a prude because of the way that she dresses and acts. Then at the end of the film, she conforms to society's standards and expectations for her gender. She dresses in clothing that is very tight and in style at the time in order to get the guy. This supports the idea that women must fill the role of a decorative object and change themselves to fit whatever role the man desires. In the movie Grease, the ways in which Danny and Sandy talk about each other when they are around other people are polar opposites. Sandy conforms to the more feminine approach by talking about how much she likes Danny. This maintains the concept that femininity is equivalent to being overly emotional when it comes to expressing feelings. Danny, on the other hand, talks about Sandy as a decorative object that is used for sex. This perpetuates the idea that for a man to be properly masculine, they must desire sex at all times. This is known as the sexual double standard, when men can desire and talk about sex all the time, but women should not desire sex. A possible solution would be simply for media to change the way in which it displays the gendering of bodies. The idealized body created by society can be very damaging for both males and females. Most female models set an unrealistic standard of what a woman's body should look like. Aerie is a company that saw that there was an issue with how female body models were being portrayed and actually took a step in the right direction. They have included women of all sizes, women with disabilities, and women of different racial backgrounds. A real solution would include more of a focus on realistic body types rather than the unrealistic version of skinny that is often displayed all over media.
The next issue we're addressing is how masculinity is portrayed in the media and a subsequent fear of seeming too masculine and not doing gender properly. During the scene, Kaneki asks Zane to be second at Thunder Road, which is followed by the two of them hugging. However, since they are men and can't show emotion, they quickly depart and comb their hair, acting like nothing happened. This perpetuates the belief that men need to avoid being seen as feminine at all costs because they've been taught that showing femininity is a bad thing and they fear that their masculinity will be called into question. Men are supposed to be tough, not show emotion, and once that wall falls, they risk being made fun of or even outcasted by their own peer group. This leads to what has been termed as the fag discourse. Being called a fag is synonymous with penetrated masculinity, which implies men are penetratable and without power. So, to avoid being called a fag, men must protect their masculinity. Here we see Danny and Kaneki realizing their mistake. Their masculinity is at stake. So, in addition to the fear of being called a fag, men must protect their masculinity so that they are seen as in charge and dominant. Women are seen as vulnerable and men as dangerous. Thus, a scene showing men as being vulnerable and showing a moment of sincere emotion contradicts the belief that they are dangerous. So, society works to discourage men from being seen as weak, so they won't be viewed as real men. In order to preserve their masculinity, they resort to violence to show that they are still the dominant gender and avoid showing their emotions at all, as this is associated with being feminine. This creates a problem of promoting violence among men and forcing them to keep their feelings inside, causing psychological problems for them and those around them. Men are so concerned with preserving their masculinity that they will not intervene in the fight, as it shows them capable of having emotions and feeling concern for their victims. Research shows that men are really only likely to intervene in an event when the victim seems to be seriously harmed. So this is still a common belief today that people are not supposed to express their feelings, and as media shows, it perpetuates that we are supposed to keep our feelings inside. So a possible solution would be to show more scenes of men engaging in real emotional scenes like this one, instead of showing them hug but quickly pull away to emphasize the point that men are not supposed to hug other men. Instead of telling men to be properly masculine, we should emphasize how to be a decent human being and focus on traits without assigning a typical gender to them.